All right, Aaron Rodgers. Um, when I was promoting tonight's stream, I said that I would talk about Aaron Rodgers if I could figure out how to talk about it. And the sad news is I haven't. I just want to say it is a really sad state of affairs where an event like Aaron Rodgers being interviewed by, I think it's Pat McAfee, Scott McAfee? Yes, Pat McAfee. So it's a real shame that something like Aaron Rodgers appearing on the Pat McAfee podcast and talking about his experience leading up to his COVID diagnosis is something that I don't feel I can cover responsibly. Again, as a reminder, my position on vaccination is too nuanced for social media to handle, and especially one that is algorithmically surveilled. I'm just going to stay away from that. So I try to talk about the conversation around it. And that is quite the conversation. I gotta say, another thing that is a sad state of affairs is how when I saw the things that Aaron Rodgers claimed on McAfee's podcast, my first reflex was to say, oh shit, is this on Odyssey? Because YouTube might take this down. And the funny thing is, even if you think that Aaron Rodgers is like some kind of anti-vax conspiracy nut, I don't think any of the actual things that he said in the podcast were that bad. It's kind of nuts that a conversation that is so tepid, frankly, made me think, oh shit, YouTube might take this down. It's kind of nuts. And I haven't figured out how to share the full depths of my impressions of that podcast. So I will stick it to this. And the timing of this is really funny to me for reasons I will elaborate on later. One of the things that made me roll my eyes that Aaron Rodgers said is when he called himself a free thinker and he brought the notion of doing your own research. And I gotta say, to the unvaccinated people who consider themselves freedom fighters, I totally get where you're coming from, okay? Believe me, I do. However, y'all are fucking cringe when you say that you should do your own research, okay? Because and I know I know personally how cringe they are because I have enough unvaccinated people in my network. Some of them actually are anti-vaxxers, so I understand where these people are coming from. However, and I've harped on this many times throughout the history of this stream, doing your own research in the Google era is only going to lead to a well, not necessarily only, but the odds that you will come out of it believing something different than what you thought before are virtually nil. I don't think there are many people with the self-discipline to actually change their mind by doing enough research, especially in the age that we live. However, and here's where we're coming back to the funny timing. Part of what made me realize the cringe-worthy nature of just saying to people, just do your own research, was from Scott Adams, a man that I mentioned so much on this stream. He has one of his own splash screens. Now, I was listening to his stream this morning, and he happened to explain the same phenomena in a way that I found interesting enough to share with y'all tonight. And I will play a short clip from this morning's stream. It is about 4 minutes. Now, before I play it, I will have to set it up because when he started setting up this whiteboard segment, he stopped to address someone in his chat, and I will start playing this after he resumes coming back to his whiteboard. So I just want to explain the premise that he is that he's going for. So on the topic of doing your own research, his position is if you're doing your own research with the intent of learning something new, then yes, you absolutely should. You should do as much of it as possible. That's almost a direct quote. But if it's a complicated issue and there are people on both sides of that issue, and there's money involved, then the results, the equation is, if an issue is really complicated and there's money involved, then the body of knowledge that is produced by this issue will be mostly fraud. Okay, so I will continue off after he was finished talking to the chatter. Let's watch.
All right. If you have a complicated topic and you add money to it, what will be the outcome, assuming it stays complicated every time? The outcome will be you're going to get mostly fraud. What would be an example of this? Let's take the finance industry. Is the finance industry a big, complicated thing? Yeah.
And by the way, the complicated issue plus money equals fraud is something that he's covered in his books. This is years old. This is part of the reason why I was using another skill throughout this crisis, which we will talk about later. Just let's continue.
Yes. And there's tons of money poured into it. Yes. Is it mostly fraud? Is the nation's finance system mostly fraud? I'm seeing yeses and nos. See, people say partially. Have I gone too far? Have I gone too far to say it's mostly fraud? It's mostly fraud.
Yeah.
It's mostly fraud. How many financial consultants are giving you unbiased advice that's good for you versus just
Commissions.
Yeah, how many are giving you unbiased advice?
Commissions.
Because the business model of financial advisors is to make more money for financial advisors.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I was alluding to. It's funny. Follow the money. How many financial advisors do you see saying follow the money? You know, follow the money. All right, let's continue.
So the financial advice business is completely corrupt. It's all fraud, right? If a financial advisor were honest, they couldn't charge you because there wouldn't be enough content. I tried to write a book on finance once, and when I realized the whole book could fit on one page, I couldn't write the book. Everything else is just fraud. The part that you need to know is like one page. That's it. Buy index funds, hold them, done. So then look at anything from climate change to whatever. Do you think that climate change, what percent of climate change, a big complicated topic with tons of money going into it, what percentage of that outcome do you think was fraud?
Climate change was the example that he used in, I'm pretty sure it was in Loser Think. Let's watch.
Well, some would say the entire solar power industry is fraud. You know, that's more of an opinion than a fact. But the fraud would be that it can't really get us to where we need to, and the cells themselves are a big pollution problem, et cetera. It looks like the entire thing is just filled with fraud. I don't know what percentage. Now, look at the supply chain issue. Right? Big, complicated thing. If we throw a bunch of money at that, or let's say infrastructure, if we have a big, complicated thing like infrastructure and throw a bunch of money at it, or even the bill, let's say the infrastructure bill, do you think that's mostly fraud? There's plenty of it in there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just make this point. Now, let's say you do your own research. You dig into this. What are you going to find? Do you think you're going to be able to sort out what the fraud is and what isn't? Maybe a little bit. But these big, complicated things are big and complicated for a reason. And part of the reason is it hides fraud. So when you go to do your research, you're going to be running into mostly bullshit, because the fraudsters need you to hit a solid wall of bullshit because they're hiding behind it. Right? Food industry, another perfect example, right? So when you go to do your own research, you're going to hit that wall of bullshit that needs to exist so that the fraud can hide safely behind it. And you won't know if you hit a wall of bullshit or if you found the truth finally. You won't know because it's good bullshit.
And that's the clip. What I wanted to point out is, don't necessarily be distracted by the pie wedge that's behind him, where like the mouth of Pac-Man is new knowledge and the actual body of Pac-Man is the fraud. Don't be distracted by the proportion of bullshit to truth. The point of the matter is that there is bullshit and truth in these kinds of things, and in order to do your own research and come up with, in order to do your own research on these issues, you need the ability to distinguish the bullshit from the fact, which, if it's a complicated field that's outside of your wheelhouse, you can't do it. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but you can't. I'm sure you think you are. I'm sure you think you can. And I'm sure that me telling you flat out that you can't distinguish the bullshit from the truth is making you believe even more firmly that you have figured it out. But I hopefully hearing Scott Adams say it in this slightly different way can be helpful to some. That's part of the reason why throughout this pandemic, I've used the approach of risk management, which again I've harped on time and time again since the beginning of this stream. If you can't look at a study in a field that you know nothing about and tell if it's bullshit or not, you can at least look at the people talking about it and try to detect which ones are bullshitting you and which ones are not. And that's the approach that I've taken. And yeah, so hopefully, again, speaking of bullshitters, it's a real shame that the social media platforms on which most of these conversations take place cannot be trusted to moderate these conversations, which is why on a segment on Aaron Rodgers appearing on the Pat McAfee show, all I have to talk about is a clip from the Scott Adams stream from this morning. But yeah, Jesus Christ, such sadness to go around. But hopefully this was valuable to some of y'all. If you like this video, you will probably enjoy this one right here. Please click on the card to watch the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon.